Welcome to MyACT live from a very sunny Cannes Lions here today. And we got really exciting news because not only do we have an exciting panel of folks here today, as you can see, I have a new co-host,
yes.
Sophie, welcome.
Thank you.
And my name is Thomas and I'm from Good Advertising. And back to the exciting announcement, which is in fact that we are celebrating creativity.
Yes, for good.
For good, and champions of good at the RTL Beach at 5 o'clock. So don't miss this celebration of great creativity and some of the folks, the change makers that are pushing this industry forward. And talking about change makers, as I said, an amazing panel here of 4 people. Let's begin with Sylvain, who is the VP of Sales at Euronews. Welcome.
Thank you.
We got Kyra, who didn't want to say her title. Some of you might know Kyra anyway. She's from Holland. She's doing lots of amazing change-maker stuff at the Dutch Embassy of Creativity and lots of other stuff. From Holland to Brazil, thank you, Emmanuel, for taking the time. Emmanuel just shared that he's been coming to Cannes since 1988 and just missed 2 years. Fantastic. And thank you. And Manuel is doing a lot of things. He is supporting the young lions, something I'm also very passionate about. So thank you for supporting young talent in our industry. You also are a professor at ESPM, so a lot of knowledge underneath that hat of yours. Last but not least, we have Olivier from Altmann and Pacreau, and he's a founder, in fact, and he's here to talk about an amazing piece of work which some of you who have been in the Palais can go and see. It's just over there, which doesn't really make any sense when we're on the screen, but it's in the ACT Responsible Hall, so come and see some of that work.
And we are going to begin with Emmanuel. I'm so happy to have you, Emmanuel. We've known each other since 20 years. You are our biggest, our oldest fan, always here at the exhibition, so thank you for that. So Emmanuel, since you've been coming for so long, what's the shift? What did you see changing at the Cannes Lions?
Well, first, thank you for the introduction. I couldn't say I'm young a long time, so so that's well, the shift that you can see in the streets, because Cannes was about advertising, creativity, always, and this. But there was a purpose to make great advertising, and that's it, and that's for all. And then the whole industry, and ACT has an important role in that, introduced the new shift for you have to begin to think about the world, you have to begin to think about your planet and how the way you live. And advertising has a fantastic role on that, because it made the consumption behavior related to social behavior. You cannot put them aside one for another. So to change the social behavior, you have to change the consumption behavior. And that's what I think was the big shift, together with the technological and platforms and tools to make good advertising. You see, you used to see agencies and clients and media. Now you see hundreds. I'm saying hundreds of companies from different fields, from different platforms, working for the same industry.
That's true. So many of these companies are partnering together to try to make a change and go towards a better sustainability or planet, or trying to help at least. Since you're taking care of all these young lions in your country and bringing them here in Cannes and being a professor, how is it over there? How is sustainability perceived in your country? You know, what's going on these environmental and social issues?
Yeah, I first met the young lions here in Cannes. I was walking, and then I saw, because Cannes in that time was a place for senior people, very rich people. And then there was these young boys walking around, and I was curious about that. And then the people from festival told me about the program, and I asked them to run this program in Brazil. And since 1995, I'm running this program. I'm happy to bring 485 people here to Cannes.
Wow.
In these 27 years. And it was very important because as long as I said about the shift, in the young lions to come here, they have to win in competition. The competition was ruled for marketing goals and marketing and advertising standards, KPIs, and then, led by Cannes, of course, the change of competition was also to solve the ESG problems. So, and that's the great shape. To be young, you have to be good in these subjects.
Fantastic, and thank you for that continuous support. 485 young minds, and I know that Brazil is always doing incredibly well and have done so historically in Cannes, both what we see among the young lions and some of the more obviously senior professionals.
Thank you.
And sort of talking about countries, because I think it was an interesting question, Sophie. Kyra, you're from Holland, as we introduced, and you've been doing a lot with young minds in Holland over the years. We've had the pleasure working together a couple of times as well. Holland has sort of captured this concept of being, one of those countries that are really pushing sustainability and in particular circularity is big in Holland. So how do you see it? I mean, Emmanuel talked about some of the shifts he's seen in Brazil. How do you see the ordinary the Dutch person?
It's always difficult, as you have the Dutch people, Holland.
Yeah.
We actually call ourselves the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Pays-Bas.
Okay, yes,
It's
that's
the
fine.
lower countries. That's okay, that's okay.
I'm from Denmark, and sometimes people confuse Dutch and Danish.
But we feel so alike, so that is okay.
It's okay, right?
So for the Netherlands, it's very general, of course. So I want to take myself as an example.
Yes.
I was never aware of sustainability. I do not have any children, so I think I already do a lot in that case. But I do feel that I can contribute as well. So, for example, we have an initiative also by young people that said, okay, we feel that we shouldn't go by plane anymore to Nice and then take the cab or the bus, but we want to go by train. So they had an initiative, and it's called Stay Grounded. And Stay Grounded was just because we wanted to keep a plane on the ground and just go by train. So actually all the young ones, they go by train, and since I feel young as well, I went by train as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
I remember back in the days when because I've been coming to Canada quite a few number of years as well. I remember the young Hunde, the young Dutch
young
life
dogs,
creatives, with their black, quite remarkable
but
bus.
we went by the bus, yeah.
Exactly, back in the days, yes. So in terms of the work, and because we talk a lot about how you foster creativity with the young minds, do you see a change?
Yeah.
Because when I started in the industry, nobody cared, to be honest, about sustainability and climate at that time. So
yeah. So what you see now, I've been talking to a lot of agencies due to the fact that we have the Embassy of Dutch Creativity here, and you talk a lot with the younger ones, and they all say, okay, I do not want to work for all the brands anymore. I want to have the option to choose whether I want to work for a specific client, and they actually are looking for agencies that do not work for specific clients, because they feel we have to make a difference in that way. And when I'm still young, but back at the days, that was not the case. You were happy if you could work in advertising, and it didn't matter if it was like companies that are doing not the right things in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess at the time when I grew up, it was basically cigarettes and alcohol. That was those taboo subjects.
Yep.
So to all of you out there, it is a challenge to our industry in terms of what those young minds want to work for, the clients and the brands. So a real challenge there. And somebody who is always loaded in the space of media and dealing with brands all the time is you at Euronews. And so how do you see the push from Euronews as media towards sustainability?
Well, I think it's two sides. One is our audience. They're really more and more hungry for news about sustainability. There's a bit of a news fatigue when it comes to all those negative news. So they really want to know more about what's going on and to find solutions. So it's really solution-oriented, and we have this journal of good news that we do on a weekly basis. And we also from the advertising sales group, we decided to compensate every carbon emission that we do throughout the programs that we do, the sponsored programs and everything. So we compensate all the emissions that we do on the production of those shows to make sure that we remain carbon neutral.
Fantastic, and I think both touching on programming, which is of course essential. I know you have been a big supporter of ACT Responsible.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that collaboration as well?
Of course, that's really important, because everything that we're talking about is about highlighting good campaigns to support causes, and obviously highlighting them, you need to really be in front of the eyes of the people. So what we created in 2007 already, so that's kind of a few years ago. We create this 1 minute of responsibility, where we give away advertising space to NGOs. And the good thing is that Euronews is a pan-regional and a global news network. So a lot of those NGOs are usually national, and they do great messages. They have great creativity, but just for a national market. And we give them a much expanded viewership. We are available to 400 million households across the world, and we give those minutes of airtime. So it's about at least 15 minutes a week for this program to showcase the best works in creativity to support causes, encourage people to give money when there are big catastrophes going on in the world, encouraging and fostering messages to support fight against climate change, to support education, to also highlight the progress in fighting diseases, especially in Africa, that are really very big challenge over there. So we give more prominence and more visibility to all those good campaigns to show that there is change happening and there are progress being made.
Fantastic, Olivier. And I think just 2 days ago, I think it was, that we talked to Hervé, who is the founder of ACT Responsible, and he talked about this idea about mind print. And I think this is a really good example of how you at Euronews, together obviously with your non-profit partners and agencies, etc., can drive a more positive mind print.
And also bringing, I think, you know, if you bring back the ideas that you have in one country and moving them over the borders and not reinventing, you know, things again and again, it's great, because it's really, the ideas are pushing people to change. They are pushing people to do better, and you are contributing to just, you know, bring this idea outside of your, you know, our little countries and worldwide. And talking about, do you want to say something?
No, I'm just going to, I was just going to underline that there are universal messages. So that's why, actually, to your point, I mean, a good message encouraging people to care for the environment that works in any particular country, works for the whole of the world.
For the whole of the world. And talking about creativity, and I'm very, very happy, because we have Olivier Altmann, founder of Altmann and Pacreau, who is an incredible creative person who did amazing and very well-known campaigns, received many Lions and everything. And we have here in the exhibition an example of a very good campaign done for la Fondation de France. And would you say a couple words about this campaign in particular?
Hello. So thank you for all the laudation. Now, Fondation de France it's interesting, because here at Cannes you have a lot of different ONG, charity, causes, and Fondation de France is a sort of the causes of all the causes, because they are supporting thousands of projects in France and abroad. And the challenge for us was, how can we explain that we are not focused on a specific, a challenge, climate change, poverty. And in fact, we want to demonstrate that all those causes are linked together more and more. when you have discussion at top level with many countries, you realize that you cannot fight poverty if you don't fight immigrations. You cannot fight against immigration if you don't fight against climate change. So that's why we come up with this idea that all those causes are linked together. And thanks to a very simple idea and a sort of a voiceover that is like, how can I say, a sort of repetition of the same system, we found a charming, interesting illustrator, Italian illustrator named Margarita. We work with Jongler, a French production company, and we end up with this film. And also Fondation de France is not at all a sort of pro bono client. It's a major client. They spend money. It's a real client. You have to really work with them to understand exactly what they need. So it was a very interesting task, because most of the time we have to work with those kind of clients, like for any client, find the right strategy. And it's interesting that it's not just, okay, we got an idea and let's propose it to someone who wants it to make a film with it.
And yeah, talking about this, I mean, you've been working with association since many, many years in your different agencies. How is it? What's the relationship between an agency and an association, and has it changed over the years? Do you see differences now that you didn't?
Yes, I think that association and agency are more and more aware of their responsibility in terms of communication. And maybe in the previous years, at the beginning, it was more a creative challenge alone. So it was, okay, we got a pro bono client that doesn't pay so much, so it's an opportunity to make us famous, of course, to make some good, but maybe good was not always the main priority. And over the years, everything's become more professional and more involved. So now, because we have also the social networks in the wild, and we need to be very focused on what we are saying. Are we doing a proper job? So the client and the agencies are working with those type of ONG exactly like they were working on P&G or Renault or whatever. And usually when you do something which is not right, which is just for the fame, you can feel it.
Yes.
And I always say to the creatives, some works feel sincere and some work feels just made for awarded. And when you're in a jury with very professional creative directors, you can smell now very quickly when there is some foundation, some work. And that's a good thing, because in the past, I think good advertising was mostly advertising for advertising people,
Olivier, thank you so much for the honesty, and I think this is a really important discussion to have in Canada. I very much agree with you that today you can definitely see that. I think we learned quite a lot here today in terms of saying how do we push forward. It needs to be a much more professional relationship. It's not just about the creativity, it's much more about the impact, so thank you for sharing that. And also for sharing this idea about mindprint and responsibility of media, and also in terms of thinking about emissions from production to on-air, etc. And Emmanuel and Kyra, thanks for supporting the young creatives and shifting their mindsets. They are the ones who unfortunately have to take a lot of the bad legacy that we left and try and sort that out. And also I think, Kyra, you had a very active encouragement with Project Grounded. So all of you next year, take a train, take the bus. It's going to be hard for you, Emmanuel, I admit that. But
by boat.
So yeah, so that I think was what we had to say here from Act Responsible live. But obviously, we have the
tribute for creativity tonight. So don't forget, huh?
At 5 o'clock at the R2L Beach. So see you at 5 o'clock at the R2L Beach, and thank you so much to the panel.
Thank you.
We'll be there.
Thanks.
you.